respects to my brother Jim. He was just a bit of an outgoing person, wasn't he? Oops, sorry.
You spilled water all over.
That's true. A friend of mine once said, I never understood how Bill Solan could consider himself as being quiet and shy. And then I met his brother Jim. It was difficult to eulogize such a full, rich life, but I will try. Jim was the one in our family who was best at giving a speech. We did not even try to compete with him. Several years ago, Jim and I practiced my father's eulogy out in the garage until we could get through it without crying. I have yet to get through a practice of this eulogy without crying, so bear with me. I would be a stone if I didn't cry. And I can't thank my brother Stephen enough for breaking the ice on that one. Jim was raised in Aberdeen, Washington, the second of 6 children to Jim and Margaret Solan. He was the leader of a gaggle of boys in our neighborhood, including but not limited to our very dear next door neighbors, the McCaulays. He and Mark McCauley beat all the younger kids in just about everything we could think of playing. We were usually just thrilled that they wanted to play with us, though there were a few disputed outcomes of our games. We were young boys after all. At home, he would compete with us with favors being owed to the winner. He would give us just enough of an advantage that we thought we could win, but rarely did. He loved to tell how he learned about inflation from his younger siblings. After he was ahead about 30 or 40 favors, that bowl of ice cream he wanted served to him would suddenly cost him 15 favors, not just one. And he would laugh. He attended St. Mary's grade school and had many fond memories of his time with the nuns. He loved to play late-night catechism and took him right back to his grade school days. He graduated from J.M. Weatherwax High School in Aberdeen, where he was involved in all types of activities, the Latin Club president, the Boys Rooting Association, theater, sports such as golf and cross-country. He conducted the church choir at age 18, and not surprisingly, was voted friendliest in his class. I would note his sister Sally, the year before, was voted shyest in her class. During those years of school, he loved to come home from school for lunch with his mother. He told us many times how much he loved to have that peanut butter sandwich at home and share the news of the day with her. What news could happen during 3 hours of school, I don't know, but he had to come home and tell her. And at the dinner table, he would regale us all about his golf game that day. Every single shot. And often the shots of others in this group. Someone protested against another night of golf stories, but it was hard. He was so full of joy, it was hard to resist. Also, he took his younger brothers along with him when he went out on dates in high school, and we felt special. He used to say, who else takes their younger brothers out on dates with them? I should mention that we were dropped off early, leaving my mother to wait up late for him. He attended Gonzaga University and loved everything about college. His friends became legends to me in his stories, all with nicknames that made them sound like the Gonzaga Mafia. You know who you are. I'm not going to mention names. I might leave someone out. And yes, you are all his best friend. The dorm life, the school plays, the golf team, everything was just terrific to him. Some wondered how he had time for school. Jim loved to tell the story about the time he and our sister Sally were leaving our home in Aberdeen to return to Gonzaga. As they were about to leave, Dad came to Sally's side of the car and said, Sally, relax a little. Go to a movie. Don't study and worry so much. You were really going to be just fine. He then went over to Jim's side of the car and said, son, I love you. But you need to put your nose to the grindstone. Don't party and talk so much. You are not there to have so much fun. I hope that was not the trip over to school where Jim drove over to Gonzaga, immediately got in a friend's car, drove back across the state to a rock concert in Tulips, which is right outside of Aberdeen. It was the Satsup River Fair and Tin Cup races, the Woodstock of the Northwest. The 60s peaked in the early 70s, and Jim did not miss much of it. You might say he was at the summit of that peak. A little long here. And of course, it was at Gonzaga where he met the love of his life, Linda. They were such a strong match that Father Pat, who had married them, said he would quit doing weddings if their marriage did not last. And last it did. Linda was truly his love and his best friend. It was always Jim and Linda, both very strong and independent souls who were intertwined in a beautiful duality. To see their kindness and intimacy in his dying days. It's touching, yeah, heart-wrenching. It's coming back. Well, Linda, you've been an amazing partner for Jim. Always comes back. It's like Jim's voice. You know about it. It is ironic that our father's admonitions that Jim attended the same law school as our father and practiced a similar type of law. He enjoyed the practice of law, and he loved to discuss cases with you, whether or not you're an attorney yourself. Outside of work and family, he had many other interests. He enjoyed the Joy Brewers basketball team, whom he captained. He played well after he was long in the tooth, as he said. He made it to 55 plus. He loved the Super Solan teams at Hoop Fest, telling us, "I can't wait to get out there and sweat with you." He loved his lake cabin and all the friends at Twin Lakes. He loved sharing a morning cappuccino. He was a force at family reunions and really a force in life. And then there was golf. He enjoyed playing all types of courses with all walks of life, and he was very good at it. Such a sweet tempo to his beautiful swing, and usually right down the middle. He played a lot of golf. It was in his marrow, and he enjoyed every minute of it. We all wanted to be in his foursome. Maybe he sensed that his time was short, and he needed to get in all those rounds of golf. Before the diagnosis of cancer, he called me once after a round of golf and said, "Billy, I don't know where we are in life, but I know we are no longer on the front line." I did not want to believe that life was just too fun with Jim Solan. It was frightening to think of it ending. I know many of you felt the same. I do think it is important to talk about Jim's sobriety. He was proud to have made it over 5 years of sobriety with the help of AA. I would be hypocritical to say those sober years were the only great times, as I shared many a night or weekend of frivolity with Jim before AA, as did many of you. I would return home after those weekends, and my wife would stop and look at me and say, "You don't look so good." I didn't feel so great either. Many of you understand, Jim had great powers of persuasion. But it had gotten to be too much too often. He wished he could drink responsibly, but he could not. He enjoyed his meetings at AA, where, yes, he met some of his old drinking friends who were there waiting with open arms. He felt that AA was about more than just leading a sober life, but about leading a life where he learned to sit with and deal with all his emotions, both good and bad, leading to more growth and meaning in his life. He was thankful he had those sober years before the diagnosis of cancer. I think it was not just his golf game that improved during his sobriety. Cancer did not define Jim, but at least a couple of cancer stories deserve mention. He called me in Seattle the night of his diagnosis with the devastating news. After a restless night, the next morning, I was frantically searching for the oncologist at the hospital where I work to get their opinions on his diagnosis and treatment. Jim called again that morning. I answered, and he said, "Did you sleep well last night?" And laughed. And then after his first surgery to resect as much tumor as possible, he woke up from anesthesia caroling. This is not a medical term. Rather, it was December, and I believe the song was White Christmas, that he was singing as he was wheeled out of surgery, worried how the rest of us were doing. Christmas carols. Nobody does that after brain surgery except our Jimmy. Jimmy, you fought a good fight, Jim. You remained positive, funny, and very sweet to the very end of your life. We'll finish with 4 lines of poetry by Edna St. Vincent Millay. They're probably repeated at many funerals, but it just fits in so well, so here they are. I burn my candle at both ends. It will not last the light. But ah. Let's start that one. Here we go. I burn my candle candle at both ends. It will not last the night, but ah, my foes and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light. Now, this is really fun. Another thing that Jim loved was audience participation. I think some of you know that. One other thing he loved was an Irish brogue. I think you might know that too. So, I want a good, strong amen from all of you when I point to you after I ask a question about Jimmy's light. And I know that many of you can be quite loud, so don't disappoint. All right? So here I go. I'll give this a try. Faith in me, Gory, didn't that Jimmy Solan cast the most beautiful light?
Amen.